Hey, one thing we love at the Kilcoyne Conversation is people with interesting resumes, really a different story to tell. Howard Richards was a great example. Played at Mizzou, drafted in the NFL, then went to work for the CIA. Now he's back at his alma mater at Mizzou up in the broadcast booth. But similarly, it's Lewis McKinney, who starred at St. Louis University. Great basketball player, prolific numbers, gets drafted by the Boston Celtics. You know, at the time, the Celtics were the reigning NBA champions. You're talking about a club run by Red Auerbach, John Havlicek on the team. Lou McKinney, kid from St. Louis, went to Central High School, joins that team, and early in the basketball career, suffers a devastating eye injury. Ends up in the professional world at Anheuser-Busch and does great things there. Now in retirement, is really doing something special. It's called A Caring Plus, and they're building homes for retired folks who are low income and trying to provide great housing in the Jennings area up in the North County area where Lou is from. And Triad Bank, one of our great sponsors, has gotten involved. So we thought we'd take a little time here, tell you Lou's story, fascinating, where basketball took him, the AB career, and then what he's doing now, and then the involvement of Triad Bank, trying to make this a reality that our seniors have a great place to live in retirement. Let's get to it. It's Lou McKinney, brought to you by Triad Bank right here, the Kilcoyne Conversation. Well, Lou McKinney from the Billikens, drafted to Boston, then a career with Anheuser-Busch, and now giving back to the community with A Caring Plus. We're going to cover a lot of ground here that I think our local basketball fans, but also people who care about the community, will be interested in. And I'm going to start at the end by saying, Lou, what a fascinating life. When I mention all the different things you've been involved with, is that fair to say?
I guess that is fair to say, Martin. It has been quite exciting for me to have had as many experiences as I've had. And I think this is the one that I was meant to have, though, in terms of my purpose, and that is one of caring for others and giving back.
Yeah, Caring Plus, great organization providing housing for our seniors, particularly in North County. And because of the bad weather and the pandemic, it's caused the golf tournament to cancel, but people can get involved at caringplus.org. I want to start, though, at the basketball. So you went to Central High School. I'm a little bit younger, and when I was in grade school, it was Pee Wee Leonard and the team and Jim Gant and great basketball at Central. You went from there to St. Louis U. Were there other places? How did you end up at SLU, and where else may have you considered?
I'm a hometown kind of guy, Martin, and believe it or not, I had 110 basketball scholarship offers. I could have went to Kansas University. I could have went to the University of Hawaii. The Air Force Academy intrigued me, as well as the Naval Academy. But I chose St. Louis University because I wanted to stay home. I wanted to give back to the community. I wanted to be near my family.
I got to tell you, Hawaii, you should at least go on the recruiting visit. I've always said that to these kids that are considering all these great schools. I'd also like to consider Hawaii just for the visit, right?
Oh, yeah. It was really exciting. Tommy Henderson, who you remember, was a great NBA basketball player, and he attended the University of Hawaii. And he called me on a regular basis, and it began with San Jacinto Community College recruiting me. And Tommy transitioned from San Jacinto to the University of Hawaii. But ultimately, it was too far for me to even consider, and I didn't even take the trip.
Was it hard to say no to Kansas? We know about their basketball reputation.
Well, I even signed a letter of intent to attend the University of Kansas and changed my mind at the last minute. So whenever we competed against Kansas, they always threw a special defense at me.
Wow. So even though you went to SLU, I think Mizzou fans now are okay with you because you turned your back on Kansas. And then junior year, 21.5 points per game. Senior year, 19 points per game. Prolific scoring at St. Louis U. Tell us about for those who haven't seen the video, tell us about your game.
It was a game where I had a good jump shot, and really my priority shots were out of the corner, which is a really tough shot. But for me, I somewhat mastered that shot, and it was great. I enjoyed competing in the conferences that I had the opportunity to play in college. We were Missouri Valley, and then we went to Conference USA, and we also were independent. So we competed against a number of great schools. Marquette was one of those schools, Notre Dame, Bradley University, Louisville, etc. It was great. And my game was a slasher game, and I had good elevation. So I fooled a few people who were trying to guard me at the 3 spot at 6'6", If you put a guy on me too big, I went around him. If you put a guy on me too short, I just jumped over him. So it was fun playing basketball.
Now, was this the old Kiel? Because for a while they went to the arena and they would put the curtains up and kind of close it off because it was a little too big. Yeah. Were you at Kiel or the arena?
Thank God I played at the Kiel and not the arena because it was very cavernous to play in the arena. A little bit big, no doubt.
And then 5th-round draft pick, the Boston Celtics. We're talking 1976. John Havlicek, St. Louis's own JoJo White. If I'm not mistaken, they won the title in 76. They drafted you. Give me an idea of draft night. Now I know the kids are all on TV and they're $1 million suits and they're on their Instagram. What was draft night like for you?
It was exciting. There was an assistant coach named John Killalay, and John was in touch with me quite a bit. And on draft night, I was excited to be drafted by the Celtics, but I was even more excited once I actually got to camp. And there was John Havlicek, who I had the special occasion to play behind him to mentee under this guy. Here this guy was right at 37 years of age. And what I learned most from John Havlicek was perpetual motion. Even in practice, he never stopped moving. In the layup line, he would run in a circle until it was his time to either rebound or shoot the layup. So I learned perpetual motion, and that really helped to excel my game.
And so JoJo's there. Did you talk about St. Louis? I mean, did he welcome you in, being part of, from the 314?
JoJo was special, no doubt about it. He welcomed me being from St. Louis, and he looked after me a lot. I'd never forget we went down to the summer camp, and it was in Marshfield, Massachusetts, and JoJo was there, and we were having a great time, and I was wanting to run down the road for a burger. He flips me the keys to a brand new Mercedes. I had never been in a Mercedes in my life. It was a great experience playing with JoJo.
And did he go? He went to Kansas, didn't he?
He did go to Kansas.
He didn't hold it against you either, huh? Let's not remind him of that.
He may have. I can recall kicking a couple elbows from that guy.
Was Red, Red wasn't coaching then, right? But he was always around?
Red was the GM back then, and Tommy Heisen was the coach. And Red Auerbach, I'm not sure what he was like in terms of his activity level, but when I got there, he was laid back, kept a cigar in his mouth, sunshades, and a hat over his eyes, and you got a chance to speak to him. He was a man of few words back then. But Tommy Heisen was great to play for as a coach. As you know, Tommy Gunn Heisen was his name, and he always encouraged me to do what they recruited me to do, which was to shoot.
Had you walked into the Garden before the first time you were there? Was it as a Celtic?
Definitely was the first time I was there at the Celtic, and the Garden, all the mystique. You walk out and you take a look around, and I thought the arena was a fascinating place because of its age and its volume, but the Garden was equally as fascinating.
Really dead spots on the floor that only Larry Bird and others knew about. Is that true?
No doubt about that. Dead spots and wet spots from the Bruins playing there.
And then tell us about the career is obviously cut short. When did that happen and what happened?
It was unfortunate. It was scrimmage in a summer league, and I received a finger to the eye, which created a vitreous hemorrhage in one of my eyes at hemorrhage, and I never gained the sight back. Interestingly enough, though, after I did recover from the surgery, I went on to play another 3 years. I finished my professional career over in Europe, over in France.
Were people marveling when you kept playing? They said, do you realize the degree of the injury you have? I mean, so your vision was obviously limited at that point, right? How difficult was that?
It was limited. It's amazing muscle memory because I don't have any depth perception. And I still was able to master the shot from the side of the basket and 3 points, even though they weren't very active back then. Most of my shots had a lot of range on them. And I recall after I recovered and I finally went to the doctor, it was my exit review with the doctor, and I asked him what were my restrictions and limitations. And he said none. He said including go back and play basketball. And I'll always thank that doctor for that. I went back and visited him many years after my basketball career, and he said, well, Lou, you were meant to play basketball, and I encourage you to do so. And it was a great experience to get basketball out of my makeup. I had to finish to play my career to know I could play at the next level, and that's exactly what I did even after sustaining the eye injury.
So you're a very upbeat, positive guy. I can sense that. I've seen that about you. Ever a time where you said, man, I was going to be a Celtic for 10 years, or man, I had a great NBA career in front of me? Is it hard not to have those thoughts?
Well, absolutely. And when I sustained the injury at the age of 22, I probably was the strongest I had ever been as a human being. I was very well conditioned. My mind was strong. My game was strong. And when I sustained that injury, of course, like anyone, you ask, why me? Thank God I had the nurturing and support of my mom and my dad and my grandparents. And they supported me through that in the best way they could, which was to encourage me. And that's what got me through. They said, there isn't anything you can't do. All you have to do is try. And that's kind of been the way I've lived my life. And I owe everything to the fact that I had a caring family. And so this transition that I've now made in terms of caring for others, now that my parents and grandparents are no longer with us, they've gone on to glory. It was something in which I was raised. So it's more than just a mission. It's a way of life for me. It's within my makeup.
And then you end up at Anheuser-Busch, one of the premier companies on the planet. How did that transition take place?
It was unbelievable. So, of course, after the eye injury and during recovery, Anheuser-Busch actually offered me a job, and then I decided to go back and play basketball. And so the second time around, they offered me a job, and I accepted. And I was an entry-level guy in the company, and fascinating enough, as God would plan it, I had a career with the company where I had great growth, accelerated from a entry-level marketing position to a management position, and then on from there to a government affairs and public affairs role. And I ended my career as an officer with the company, and it was a great 28-year career.
And that was a great time to be at the brewery. We hear legendary story. I'm not saying they had steak for breakfast or flew on private jets everywhere, but it was a fun time, wasn't it, to be at AB?
I don't know what I could have imagined life being without that experience at Anheuser-Busch. It was definitely a great company during the time in which I was employed there, and some of the qualitative experience. And of course, being an alcohol beverage company, a beer company, I got a chance to attend just about any type of spectacular sporting event you could have imagined. And so the experience with the company, the imagery we had, the leadership role that we had, it just really played into some of my goals and my career objectives in terms of representing a company like Anheuser-Busch.
And so we've talked about it loosely, a Caring Plus, your organization now that's helping provide senior housing for those low income that wouldn't otherwise have that opportunity. I kind of hate that word, low income, but they deserve dignity and housing. Tell us how a Caring Plus, how this even evolved. And was there any time at AB where you're in the community, you're from this area, where you kind of saw the need and said, maybe one day we'll do this?
And believe it or not, when I interviewed with the company, that was one of the questions that was asked by the interviewer. If you didn't have to work and you had resources, what would you do with your life? And my reply was, I want to work in a way in which I gave back to the community, which had given me so much. And that's exactly what I did once I concluded my career at Anheuser-Busch. I took a few months off. I looked around the community. I know that seniors needed to have an opportunity to age with dignity and with a special quality of life. And unfortunately, in some of the areas where, quote unquote, they call them low income because people sometimes struggle in these areas economically. They live below the poverty line in some areas. They have to be displaced from their communities and removed from their families and removed from their friends. And seniors, they live a life of solitude, and it's very depressing for them, and it leads to a downward mentality with them. So I didn't want that to happen to my parents and grandparents. I didn't want that to happen to people in the community. So I began my quest in terms of how do I give back? And we started off with supportive services, and now we've evolved into an organization that provides affordable quality housing.
And so right now, how many units, how many facilities, how many buildings, where are we in terms of real estate?
Well, we've been really, really fortunate. We started off by purchasing an archdiocese property holding, which was a campus, which included a rectory, a convent, as well as a school. And we have now developed 2 properties for a total of 74 units. We're about to start on our 3rd property, which is a refurbish of an existing Itner School, which is a very well-known architect here in St. Louis, and that unit will have 49 units. So we now have 74 actually in service, and we're adding another 49 next year.
And so, again, no golf tournament this year, but people can get involved. It's real simple. The website, acaringplus.org. And if you had to sum up the mission and kind of the passion you have for maybe better lives for all people in St. Louis, how would you sum it up?
Well, so goes the quality of life in our community. So goes the quality of life for the city of St. Louis. So you can't not want to help every community to come up to a better quality of life. It's while you're still thriving to make the communities in which, if you're fortunate enough to live in, to have a better quality of life. Can we do that one again?
Sure, go ahead. Just pick up.
Yeah. So I think that, when others who are more fortunate than others, when they give back, it brings the whole quality of life up for the entire community. And I encourage everyone to be supportive of those who need it most.
Lou, great to spend time with you. I love the resume. I'm always fascinated by people who've done so many interesting things. A star player for the Billikens, then he's hanging out with Red Auerbach and the Boston Celtics, goes overseas, works for AB, and now maybe most importantly, giving back to the community. All the best with the Caring Plus.
Martin, I can't thank you enough for this opportunity. And as I always say, you have to support the home team. So I've always given back to this community, and I hope this community will support what I'm doing.
And we continue the conversation about a Caring Plus with the CEO at Triad Bank, Jim Regna. So not only with Triad Bank, but also their support of a Caring Plus. Jim, I'd like to start with, I know I've been around you a lot and with Lou. It is a pretty fascinating resume, isn't it? A guy who played for the Celtics, played overseas, and now what he's doing?
It's incredible. And, Lou is really modest. And, one of the, after Anheuser-Busch sold to InBev, there were a lot of books written about behind the scenes, behind the curtain of all these interesting stories. And we were starting a board meeting one day, and Lou walked in, and one of our fellow directors asked him, Lou, have you read the book, whatever one of those that had come out? And Lou said, I don't need to read the book. I lived it.
He needs to write a book. If you think about it, Billikens, Celtics, overseas. Tell us, though, because it's not just the bank, but you're heavily involved. And this year's weird because everything's been canceled. Now the golf tournament's not happening. Great YouTube video we're going to link people to, but the website, acaringplus.org. Tell me how this resonated with you and with the bank.
Sure. So our goal this year, by the way, is to raise $50,000, and I think we're going to do it. And it doesn't mean that all our needs are going to be met by $50,000. So if you have the ability to donate, we would certainly appreciate your participation because we're doing great work. My involvement, I actually lived very close to the area that Lou grew up in Jennings. I grew up in Baden. Very passionate about, I know the people there and how hardworking they are and how family devoted they are. And, now that they're at an age where they don't have the resources to live quality life. And so it was very easy for me, after I heard what Lou was doing, to become passionate about it and seeing all the great things that we're able to do at a Caring Plus Foundation, the housing, the home repair, the food assistance. We had a federal home loan grant that we got a few years ago for $750,000 that helped these people that were still in their homes do what were major repairs, leaky roof, bathroom falling apart, just things to make their lives better and give them a better quality of life so that you're not going to bed under a leaky roof or you're not worrying about having to fall through the bathroom floor because the floorboards are rotted out. So it's just been a wonderful thing to be involved with. I'm passionate about it. Lou's been a great friend of mine and love to work with him on this, and we both get a big kick out of seeing the results, and they are, and it's all because of Lou and his ability to have the vision and to execute it. And he's a big teddy bear, but I've seen him in action, and when he wants something done, he gets it done. He's a driver, and he's just like he was as an athlete, dedicated, hardworking, and he does the same thing with anything he's involved with.
Perfectly summed up. Jim, thanks for what you're doing with the Caring Plus, and thanks for being part of the show as well.
Thank you, Martin.
All right. Jim Regna, CEO at Triad Bank. Love the fact that Triad Bank, Jim Regna, the team over there has gotten involved with this and gotten to know a great guy like Lou McKinney. St. Louis is better for having people like that. I think Jim put it into perspective with his words about Lou. If you're a business owner or maybe an individual want to get involved, it's acaringplus.org. That's the website. You can read about the great work they're doing. And again, if you'd like to get involved, all the better. But thanks to Jim for the time. We use the home offices there at Triad Bank to record this interview. And Lou McKinney, what a gracious gentleman who's had a fascinating life, fascinating career. We appreciate him being a part of the Kilcoyne Conversation. Back later this week with the latest installment of Martin and Marlowe.